Hello, everyone. Um, I want to just give a little short introduction to Chapter 4. We're going to be talking about payables and purchases, a major component of any record-keeping system, the financial end of things especially. Of course, those are the things we're purchasing and paying for inputs for our business or capital items that are used to generate income. So we're primarily going to be concerned with payables and purchases throughout this chapter and the lessons that we have. And one of the things I want to emphasize within this whole thing is that, I know that we're not following in the footsteps of an agricultural operation, but I want to kind of remind you that ag operations in fact are not any different than any other business. We have a different lifestyle. We may treat record keeping a little bit differently. I think we would probably be a little more successful if we had a better handle on record keeping like regular business does. And, the successes and problems that all business has, we have them in agriculture. So I think it's really important that we actually learn a few things about record keeping systems from other businesses. So I think it's a great opportunity to learn is to take some of the lessons that we're getting within the lessons of the last couple of weeks. And even though it's a pet store, there's a lot of things that are very, very similar to us in agriculture. I did get a question from a couple students from Chapter 3, for instance, about, well, why do I need to keep track of all my customers? I only have a couple customers. I sell my cows in the fall or my calves. I only have a few sales during the year and stuff like that. And my answer to that is simply that there's very few ranches or farms that doesn't have some other kinds of income, maybe even on a retail level. Maybe you've got an internet business that's tied right into the ranch. Maybe you have a outfitting business and you're selling, all kinds of hunts, fishing trips, maybe recreational type opportunities for your customers you want to keep track of and be able to do the same things that regular businesses do, for those customers. The great thing about it, a record-keeping system like this will keep track of all kinds of information on your customers so that you can keep in contact with them, which is a huge, huge responsibility. And it certainly is a less expensive way to go about getting new customers. The customers that you have are the cheapest customers that you'll ever buy. And I heard that many, many years ago, and I've come to know that very well. So if you keep track of the people and you communicate with them on a regular basis, you've won half the battle. For the most part, people want to come back to places that they've been well served. And I'm assuming that you're going to do that. So let's talk a little bit more about payables and purchases. It's not going to be very long. I can always extend it till as you have experienced in the past. Let me also remind you that if you need some help, we're trying some virtual office hours. And we'll see if you need any help, if I can help you during those times. That I think those will work out pretty well. If there's another time that works out better for you, I'll try to accommodate that as well. So anyway, so we're going to buy inputs. There's two main ways that we're going to buy those inputs, and that would be a cash purchase where we actually pay for it right there. There's a couple of forms that we could use, of course, to do that. We could use actual cash, and we'll cover that in this chapter. We could use a check, which is a very common method of payment. And we'll do it right when we exchange and get that particular item or input. We may use a credit card or a debit card. Debit would be very similar to a check, and credit would be something that we would actually have on account, and we'd have to pay for later, of course. So businesses use those all the time. I'm a very big advocate of paying for it when you get it. So, and the non-use of credit cards, because they can especially for a business that only gets income several times a year. It can be kind of difficult to have those things on account for very long. So the other type besides cash purchases that we might have would be purchases on account, and they're a special kind of purchase in the fact that we may record it as a bill that we will owe. In many cases, it will be due in, say, 30 days, maybe a little bit longer, but that's generally how, especially just those ordinary expenses that we might have throughout the year, will be handled. Or at the end of the month, they may bill you later on in the month. You may receive the bill and it may be due in another 15 to 30 days, and you can record that. Many businesses use this as part of their operating, and by what I mean is that it stretches their cash out. So you plan to have some income generated in the next couple of weeks. This bill is due in 30 days. We can handle that bill, within that time frame as far as a doable and payable type of a bill. If you get overextended, this is where businesses really, and families, when it comes down to personal finance, get into trouble with those kinds of things. But it sometimes has to be managed that way, especially in the early portions of a business. One of the things I'm a huge advocate for with personal finance and in the business side of things is actually building up and starting early to have an emergency fund so that you're actually self-financed. An agricultural business and a family take on many risks throughout their enterprises and when they're operating, and without some kind of an emergency plan, and I'm talking about fund, it's very difficult not to get caught with your pants down. And that may not be the best way to describe that, but if you have a financial problem, you're taking on a lot of risk. You only need to trip once or twice, and it could be the end of the business if you don't have those sort of things. An emergency fund is actually something that we would start on and add to, and it could be just incremental. We start putting it away, setting it aside and not spending it as if we don't have it. And many businesses that I've studied have this kind of a policy, especially small business, and they've been managed so that they can operate over the long term. Okay, so bills can be paid for when they're actually received. So that's one way we can do it. We could, go out to the mailbox or the post office box, pick up the bill, take it home, write a check for it. We could also use our debit card and we could pay for it over the internet right at that particular time. Or we could actually wait until they're due. Okay, so again, that's the way that we might extend. We might get a little credit through some of these other businesses that have extended it to us. Those are some of the ways that we might actually use, and how they're recorded is what we're going to be is the major lessons within QuickBooks, this particular chapter. One of the things to keep in mind, and we'll wind down here, but the vendor list within QuickBooks online and desktop too is actually the accounts payable ledger when it comes right down to it. So I can at any time pull up all my vendor list and get an actual accounts payable ledger and see where I stand with each one of those vendors. So good luck to you. I think you'll it should be becoming easier for you, and that's the kind of the sense that I get. And one of the reasons is that there's just a particular familiarity with this software that
as you get more used to using the software, you become more comfortable with it. It's not that it's harder at first, but I think if you have any problems, give me a call. I'm more than happy to work out anything. Pay attention to your trial balances. Another key area that I think it points out within the chapter is the fact of dates. Now we're plugging in historical dates, and you might do that as well. I do that with my bookkeeping system. It doesn't stay up to date all the time, especially when we're running during our operating season. I don't have a chance to be inputting the expenses and the receipts and things like that on a daily basis. I'll have to, a couple times a month, sit down and do those kinds of things. So I'm actually doing historical data entry. Pay attention to dates. They're really, really important, and whether or not you put those in accurately depends on whether, as far as the accuracy of the reports that you get out on the other end. And generally, from here on out, at least the chapter 3 and 4, those dates are very, very important as far as the reports that we're pulling. So anyway, happy bookkeeping to you, and let me know if you need anything. Okay, we'll talk to you later.